Hi, everybody. This is Francis from Nerds Rule the World and New Release Wednesday. And today I'm reviewing the movie with Tom Hanks called Greyhound. Stay tuned. Hey, everybody. This is Francis, Big Boy Eskrimador, and I'm here to review for New Release Wednesdays and Nerds Rule the World Greyhound. So now this is a movie that I watched on Apple TV. I think this was exclusively released on Apple TV, and it's basically let me just give you some basics about it. This was released in 2020. The director was Aaron Schneider. It is a book based. It was a book based upon The Good Shepherd, written by C.S. Forrester, which is the name. I love that already because I drive a Forester. But the screenplay was adapted by Tom Hanks himself, starring, of course, Tom Hanks, Elizabeth Shue, Stephen Graham, and a few others. Now, so the premise of the movie is that several months after the U.S. entry into World War II, an inexperienced U.S. Navy commander must lead an Allied convoy being stacked by a German submarine wolf pack. Now, what a wolf pack? The wolf pack. It's just these was just like a group of submarines and the U-boats that were sinking Allied ships. So now, let's talk about this movie. So Tom Hanks, the mere fact that Tom Hanks is headlining this movie, you know that it's going to be a quality movie because it's Tom Hanks. I can't recall anything that Tom Hanks has ever been in that I didn't want to watch. Okay, I'm not saying I've watched every Tom Hanks movie, but if I do, I'm almost guaranteed that I'm not going to be disappointed. Even when he did that TV show way many moons back ago, can't remember the name of it now, but yeah. Of course, Forrest Gump. Gosh, there's so many movies I can't even. Philadelphia. He's just an amazing actor and performer, and he's just such a solid actor, and from what a lot of people are telling, recounts about him, he's just an amazing person. So you're almost guaranteed that it's going to be a great movie. But this movie is pretty much action packed from beginning to end. So the story is that basically, right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and the United States finally enters World War II. The European Allied countries were they've been fighting the Nazis for several years now at that point, and they were definitely lacking of supplies and lacking of men and to fight the war. So now that's when the Americans were starting to send ships to Europe. The problem is that the U-boats keep sinking a lot of these ships before they can get to Europe. So here's the big issue. Now, I don't know if many of you know this, but back during World War II, aircraft carriers were not prevalently used all the time. In fact, there was pretty much new addition to the naval warfare. And at that time, a lot of people in the Navy looked down upon aircraft carriers because it was so slow, and so it was inability to really protect itself. So they focus a lot more on battleships, right? Well, so the biggest issue now was that the U-boats that were sinking these ships, they were almost defenseless against these guys because the U-boats were faster. Of course, because they're submarines, they go underneath the ocean, they go under the water. It's hard for them to pinpoint and attack them, right? So they would actually send airplanes to be the safeguard for them. They could, because airplanes can definitely see the ships from the sky, from the submarines from the sky, and bomb them before they can ever do that. But the biggest issue that they had was that the planes can only get to a certain point before they have to turn back and refuel. Again, aircraft carriers were not used all the time yet, or any at all, and the planes were not outfitted to fly out of the aircraft carrier in any significant worth to this convoy. So now, of course, the European allies would send some airplanes to protect the convoy, but there's a gap between the United States and Europe. There's a gap of within the Atlantic Ocean that's about a 50-hour to cross that portion, and that's what they call the Black Pit. And Tom Hanks, this is the first time he's actually been assigned a ship, right? Which is kind of weird because you would think they would assign somebody who is more experienced, but I don't know. But then they assigned Tom Hanks, the character, to defend this convoy alongside two other British ships that they were there. Now the Greyhound denotes that this is a fast-moving ship, just like we know, like Greyhounds are the ones that are used to race dogs, and this was a very fast-moving ship, but you know, in its time, and its job was to protect this convoy that was coming across. Now, what was so amazing about this movie is that not only is great, you know, Tom Hanks's, you know, acting is just on point as always, is that what's so amazing is that the small interpersonal connections that the characters would have with each other. And one of the things that stood out the most for me was that the ship that was I can't remember what title he would be in the Navy at that time, but his job, I think he's a steward. His job is to make sure that the captain eats, the skipper eats, right? And throughout the movie, you see this guy, this African American, you know, sailor, trying to feed the captain all day long, and somehow he just, you know, the captain is always preoccupied with so many things, right? He's got to go do this. He's got to. They're under attack, and then when there's a break within the whole thing, you would see the same steward try to bring the skipper some more food, and again the skipper won't eat any food. So you know, this was his job, and to many people, they just kind of like, okay, just go over there. Now, little spoiler alert, I'm gonna ruin this. In one of the attacks, right, the person that brings the food to the skipper was killed in action, right? Was killed by one of the attacks, and then the skipper noticed that. The skipper noticed that that guy was gone, but then he still had like another 48 hours or 40 hours worth of crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and he still couldn't focus on that. So now somebody else was bringing him food. And again, I don't think he ever even ate the whole movie, right? Even though food is being brought over and over to him, I think the most he ever did was drink coffee, right? And then when finally, when finally you would think he's about to eat, an attack is happening. Okay. Now, what's so amazing was that the group of submarines, I think there was 8 of them, the U-boats that was attacking this convoy. One of the skippers of that was, I think it was the Wolf, was like, oh, we are hunting you, we're hunting you. Oh, they're doing the whole howl thing, right? And they were really just egging on the Americans. They're scaring them into coming across. But Tom Hanks's character did not waver. He stood on his ground, and he did what he needed to do. Now, did they make it across the Atlantic Ocean? You're going to have to watch. I'm not going to spoil it that much for you guys. But ultimately, this is a great movie. 10 out of 10, 5 stars out of 5. Amazing movie. It's available on Apple TV. I don't know how Apple TV really works yet, but when I watched it, I didn't pay for it, so it was for free. So if it's still free, I suggest you definitely watch it. You will not be disappointed. This is a good movie that you can actually show your kids. There is some violence. There is some, it is war, but there's not much foul language. I don't think any foul language, or there's not, sex or gratuitous things. So this is something that you can probably show your family, your children, and has, just to kind of show them an idea of what World War II might have been like, especially for the sailors of that time. So show it to them, watch them, and then this could be something that you guys can discuss as a family. So I definitely recommend this. That's something that you guys can watch as a family together. I don't know. Do you guys agree? If you've seen this movie, please comment down below if you agree with my assessment. And if you haven't watched the movie, then come back and give a comment and give us your assessment of this movie. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget that notification button so you are aware every time myself or any of my colleagues are dropping a new review of any movie or any comic book or anything, so that you're alerted to it as soon as possible. Until then, my name is Francis, Big Boy Eskrimador, reviewing the movie Greyhound with Tom Hanks for new release Wednesdays and Nerds Rule the World. Nerds rule the world. Peace out, God bless, and I'll see you in the movies.